Your account balance has gone up every single quarter for 11 years. Never a red month, never a dip, just a smooth, polite staircase climbing up and to the right, which should probably have been your first clue. So, one Tuesday morning in March, coffee going cold next to the mouse, you do something you have never done. You ask for $80,000 of it back. 3 months later, a wire lands in your checking account for $40,000 and change. That happened to a retired machinist named Alvin. And here's the strange part. Nothing was stolen. Nobody got arrested. His statement was not a lie. Both of those numbers were, in some legal and accounting sense, completely real. They just were not the same number. And the gap between them is the most interesting thing happening in American finance right now, partly because there is a very good chance you own a piece of it and nobody has gotten around to telling you. My name is Nick, and today we are talking about private credit. Roughly $1.7 trillion of loans sitting outside the banking system, outside the stock market, and outside anybody's ability to tell you what they are worth. Investors are lining up to leave. The funds are telling them to wait their turn. Subscribe if you want this without a commission attached to the end of it. Before you decide this is somebody else's problem, find out whether it is yours. Do you have a target date fund with a year printed in the name? Does your advisor have you in anything paying 9 or 10% while your savings account pays 4? Do you have a pension? If you said yes to any of that, congratulations, you are already in this. Nobody formally introduced you. Karina said yes to the first one and has no idea. 34, hospital administration, has never read past page 1 of a statement in her life, and her plan is adding this next year without asking her. Hold on to Karina. And hold on to Erica, the advisor who put Alvin in this, who is not your villain no matter how badly you want one. Okay, here is the one idea you need for the rest of this. If you take nothing else, take this. Everything you own has two prices. There is what the appraisal says, and there is what somebody will actually hand you for it this afternoon. On your house, those live close together because houses sell on your street and you can go look. On your stocks, they are the same number because that is what a stock price is. On the loans you're about to meet, nobody checks. There is no street. There is only the appraisal, which worked beautifully for a decade because nobody tried to cash out. So how did $1 trillion end up somewhere with no price on it? You already know how this used to work. A company needs $40 million. It walks into a bank. The bank underwrites the loan, holds it, and eats the loss when it blows up. Slow, boring, and supervised by roughly 9 federal agencies who all get to say no, which is a terrible business model and an excellent safety feature. Then 2008 happened and regulators did what regulators do after a fire, which is bolt the doors on the building that already burned down. New rules made those loans expensive for a bank to hold, so the loans left. They walked across the street to funds that were not banks and therefore did not have to behave like one. That is private credit. Somebody raises money from investors, pensions, insurers, and eventually you, lends it straight to companies and keeps the interest, a bank with better branding and worse disclosure. And your money does not sit in a vault earning 9% out of gratitude. It goes out the door as loans to companies you have never heard of. Alvin's $80,000 went out that door too, and one of the things it financed was a company that makes windshield wipers. Hold that thought. It is now close to 30% of all below investment grade corporate debt in this country, up from 13% after the crisis. In 15 years, a third of the riskiest lending in America moved somewhere with no daily price and nobody consulted you. Then last September, 2 companies collapsed 19 days apart and the appraisal problem stopped being theoretical. The second one was your windshield wipers. First Brands Group filed with more than $10 billion in liabilities. They make spark plugs, oil filters, and wipers, and you have bought their products at Walmart without once wondering how the company was financed, which is genuinely the correct amount of thought to give a windshield wiper. You did not lend them money on purpose. You lent it through intermediaries you could not name if I offered you cash. And when the lawyers went looking, about $2.3 billion of receivables could not be located, with some invoices allegedly inflated 50 times over. The loan fell from near $1 to 33 cents. 19 days earlier, a Dallas lender called Tricolor went down the same way. With roughly $1.9 billion of bonds backed by collateral the SEC now says substantially did not exist, JP Morgan wrote off $170 million, a rounding error for them and a flare over the tree line for you. Then Jamie Dimon got on an earnings call and said the line you have heard since. When you see one cockroach, there are probably more. Here is why that detonated. The honest answer to are there more is that nobody knows. Not the regulators, not the ratings agencies, not always the people holding your money. And when the answer to a frightening question is a shrug, you do not wait politely for better data. You ask for your money back, which is exactly what Alvin did. So let's talk about what happens when you try. Your money did not go into the locked up institutional funds. It went into a retail version built to be sold to you for as little as $2,500 fat yield, smooth line, and a promise that you can get out. Sort of. You get out through a quarterly repurchase offer described in your documents in the section you did not read, which I say without judgment because nobody reads it and the people who wrote it are counting on that. So walk through it as if it were you. You decide you want your money, you submit your request, you wait 90 days because that is the only speed this thing has. Then you find out your fund only buys back 5% of itself per quarter, and that if more of you ask than that, all of you get cut back proportionally. You did not lose a vote. You were never offered one. For 4 years, nobody noticed that cap because nobody was leaving. Then everybody left at once. This year, across the 12 largest of these funds, the average request to leave hit 12%. Investors like you asked for $15 billion and got back about 53% of it. At Blue Owl, one fund's investors asked to pull 22%. In the tech version, north of 40%. Now, do your arithmetic, because nobody put it in your brochure. You want all of your money. So does everyone else. You get 5% a quarter, so it takes you 5 years to leave. And that is the flattering version, because when you get half of what you asked for, you resubmit next quarter, and so does everybody else. And your position in that line never actually improves. A 5% cap is a very polite way of telling you no, and you will receive that no on excellent letterhead. Karina gets an email about this in the fall. 4 paragraphs, the word diversification twice, and not one appearance of quarterly repurchase offer, because that phrase does not go in enrollment emails. It goes in the document nobody opens. Alvin asked for $80,000 and got half, so he did what you would do and asked for the rest, plus a cushion. He is now a permanent resident of a queue he never knew he was standing in. Erica called him about it, and I want to be careful because the easy version makes Erica a predator and she is not. She read the same materials everybody read, and the pitch was airtight. Institutional quality lending, tiny historical losses, 9 or 10% while your savings account pays 4%. She was not lying to Alvin. She believed it. She has her own money in there in the same queue, which makes this a system story instead of a scandal story. Almost nobody in that chain had to lie to you to get you here, okay? Remember your 2 prices. Last November, Blue Owl proposed merging 2 of its own funds. If you held the smaller one, you were getting shares in the bigger one, and when analysts ran your exchange ratio, it came out to roughly 80 cents on the dollar. Just sit with that. Same firm, same day, same loans. Your appraisal said $1, your transaction said 80 cents. Both of your numbers walked out of the same building, presumably nodding at each other in the hallway. The deal collapsed in 48 hours, and the firm later said it would sell $1.4 billion of assets and win the fund down instead. Nothing on your statement warned you. Nothing on Karina's will either. It gets worse where prices exist. Some of these funds trade on the stock exchange, which means strangers appraise them for you daily for free, whether you like the answer or not. As a group, they change hands about 25% below stated book value, and one, Prospect Capital, disclosed a discount near 57% this year. 57%. That is the market reading an appraisal of $1 and offering you 43 cents. If you have ever watched somebody price your trade in, you already know whose number wins. Your fund will tell you that discount is irrational, that markets overshoot, that the loans pay at par and the gap closes. Sometimes true. But nobody can call a real price meaningless noise while insisting an appraisal with no price behind it is precise. Pick one. Cliff Asness has a phrase for this I am stealing because it is too good to leave alone. Volatility laundering. If nobody prices the loan never looks volatile. That smooth line was never evidence you were safe. It was evidence nobody looked. A quiet smoke detector and a smoke detector with the battery out give you exactly the same reading, and smoothing only runs one direction with a loan because a loan cannot surprise you to the upside. Your best case is your money back with interest and a thank you note. So an appraisal that lags reality is not averaging your good news against your bad. It is exclusively postponing your bad. A second queue made of losses standing behind the queue of investors. Now, here is what a redemption queue actually feels like because the mechanics badly undersell it. It feels like logging into a portal every 90 days to learn how much of your own money you are allowed this quarter. It feels like a roof quote for $18,000, a balance of $201,000, and no relationship whatsoever between those two facts. It feels like telling your wife the money is fine. It is definitely fine. It is just not available right now, which is a sentence that has never once reassured a spouse in the history of marriage. Alvin has been doing that math since March. He is retired. He was not supposed to be doing math anymore. Erica has no good answer for him because there is not one, and every 90 days she has to say so again. So how do you tell whether the losses under that appraisal are real or whether everyone is being dramatic? 3 tells. You can check all 3 tonight on your phone in about 11 minutes, which is less time than you have already given me. Pull up your fund's most recent quarterly filing and look for these in order. Your first tell is interest that is not money. When a borrower cannot pay cash, your fund adds the interest onto the loan balance instead. It books your income, reports your yield, pays you a distribution on it, and no actual money moves anywhere. An IOU for an IOU. It now runs around 8% of interest income across these funds, and tripled in a year at one large Apollo vehicle, which means a slice of your yield is not being earned for you. It is being manufactured on a spreadsheet by somebody who is technically not lying to you. Your second tell is loans that stopped paying and that everyone finally admitted stopped paying. Across the 20 largest funds, that rate hit 2.8% last quarter, the highest since 2017, and climbing. Not a catastrophe. Also not the smooth lineup, and to the right you were sold. Your third tell is the human one, and the industry says it out loud without embarrassment. Extend and pretend. When a lender has a struggling borrower and nobody to argue with, the easiest move on earth is to amend the loan, push the maturity out 2 years, flip the cash interest to IOU, waive the covenant the borrower just broke, then congratulate everyone on a productive meeting. The loan does not default because the room agreed it does not. You cannot fail a test nobody grades. Meanwhile, Fitch tracked about 300 of these companies and found a default rate over 9% last year. Different planet from the sub 1% numbers you were shown. Both real, measuring different things, and good luck guessing which one made your brochure. Which brings us back to Karina and the part where this stops being about retirees in Ohio. Last August, an executive order told the Labor Department to make it easier to put this into your retirement plan, and this March, it proposed the rule handing your employer a safe harbor for doing exactly that. There is more than $12 trillion sitting in accounts like yours, and this industry has wanted at your pile for a decade. They will get it, not through a conspiracy, but through incentives that all point away from you. Your plan provider gets a differentiated product. Your asset manager gets permanent capital that cannot run, and you do not get a vote because it arrives inside your target date fund with a year on the label, and nobody has ever voted on the inside of one of those. Your fee math is not subtle either. You pay around 3.3% a year on the retail version. You would pay 3 to 20 basis points for an index fund. That is 3 percentage points of drag on your balance every year forever, on a product whose entire pitch is earning you an extra 2. You are paying hedge fund prices to underperform a bond fund and then thanking it for the yield, so put your own money on it. $100,000 5 years ago is about $181,000 today in the total United States stock market. In one of the better private credit funds, 156. In high yield bonds, 122. You beat junk bonds comfortably, which is the fair fight, and lost badly to the boring index fund, which is the fight you were sold. If you want to keep working through this stuff without somebody pitching you at the end of it, I run a school community. Link is below. By now you might think I have stacked this, so let me argue against myself because you deserve the strong version of the other side from me instead of a weak one from somebody earning a commission on you. Start with Erica because Erica was not wrong about anything she told Alvin. The main direct lending index returned 9.3% last year, has averaged 9.5% over 20 years, and posted exactly one negative year in 2008. Losses run under 1% annually. Nobody invented that. The structural argument is better still. Most of this money sits in locked funds with a 10-year life. So there is no run risk because there is nothing to run from. Nobody gets forced to dump loans cheap to pay somebody else's redemption, which is the exact mechanism that turned 2008 into a catastrophe. When Blackstone's John Gray tells you gates are a feature and not a bug, he is right. The gate exists so your fund does not sell cheap to pay whoever panicked first. It protects you as long as you are one of the people staying, which is a sentence worth reading twice, and you have watched this movie before. In late 2022, Blackstone's real estate version gated for 16 straight months, and coverage was apocalyptic. And then mostly nothing happened. One bad year, down 0.5%, and by early 2024, it was paying everybody again. If you sat still, you were fine. But look at who was not. The people who could not wait sold their stakes on the side at 5 to 10% discounts. The gate does not destroy value. It moves the loss onto whoever needs their money most urgently, which is reliably the person least able to absorb it. It is a fire exit that only opens for people who are not in a hurry. So here is your real test, and it is not a test about credit. If you can sit still, you are probably fine. If you cannot, you eat the discount, and nobody asks you which one you are before they sell you the fund. Worth knowing too that your bank never actually left this business. It stopped making these loans and started financing the people who make them, which is now 13% of all bank lending, up from 4% in 2015, and by the Federal Reserve's own admission, the part they see least clearly. I am not a financial advisor, and none of this is financial advice. It is what the filings say and what the arithmetic does to them. And if you are realizing you might own some of this and feeling stupid about it, stop. You are not stupid. Alvin is not stupid. He did not chase a meme stock or wire money to a stranger. He took part of a rollover, put it in a professionally managed fund recommended by a licensed advisor, and left it alone for 11 years. He did every single thing the system tells you to do in the order it tells you to do it, and the system still handed him a cue. The only thing he got wrong was believing the number on his statement was a promise instead of an appraisal. Nobody handed him that distinction. Nobody handed it to Erica. Nobody is handing it to Karina, and nobody handed it to you, which is the entire reason you are still watching. So here is your calm version. Read your repurchase terms tonight, not the quarter you need them. Assume a 5% cap means a 5-year exit under stress, and size your real cash needs around that number rather than the friendly one, and stop reading a smooth line as evidence of anything except that nobody checked. You are not being asked to predict a crisis. You are being asked to know what you own before somebody else decides what it is worth. That is the whole video, honestly. Not that private credit is a fraud, because mostly it is not. Not that you lose everything, because most of you will not. Just that there is a gap between what your money is appraised at and what your money is worth, and several million of you are finding out at the same time. Erica still has Alvin's money in that fund. It still climbs every quarter, smooth as ever. Every 90 days he asks for another piece. Every 90 days he gets some of it, and his statement stays beautiful the entire time. If that bothers you as much as it bothers me, Come argue with me about it over our school community. So the next time somebody shows you an investment with a line that never goes down, do not ask what it earned. Ask what somebody would hand you for it this afternoon. If they cannot tell you, you already have your answer.